Good morning, traders. Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Trader Bacon Show. I am your host, Gates Adams, and such a pleasure to spend my Monday morning with all of you today. We've got some cool things going on that I wanted to share with you. First and foremost, just want to let you guys know that we will not have a show next week being Labor Day, no market, no show. So I just want to make sure that you guys have the heads up on that and don't come looking for me because I won't be here. Of course, we will be giving away 3 evaluations over the course of this show. So make sure to fill out the form that will be in the chat here in just a moment. Make sure to get that filled out. And of course, we will be giving away, I want to congratulate last week's winners. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm going to do my best, but Boake, Boki, Dayal, and Jokin, I'm hoping I did reasonably okay, but if I butchered your name, at least you got an evaluation out of it. So congratulations to you guys. Next week, we will, of course, be announcing the winners from today's show. I also want to let you guys know just a couple of days left with Apex Trader Funding 80% off sale. Make sure to take full advantage of that while it lasts. We've got a couple days, like I said, about 2.5 days left. Make sure to use promo code Benzinga to get that discount. That will always get you the lowest price available on any evaluations with Apex Trader Funding. Go to apextraderfunding.com and you should be good to go there. We've got a fun and phenomenal show for you guys today. Justin, just a successful trader. He's been consistently on the right side of things for, I can't remember how long, but like a year or two now, and just continuing to see growth and development. And he's going to share with you the ideas, the concepts, and strategies that have made him a consistently successful and profitable trader. So be sure to take notes. Get ready for this on today's episode of the Trader Bacon Show. Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now. Oh, so it sounds like I've got an echo in the show. I'm not sure that there's going to be much I can do. I'm going to do my best and see if, well, I've only got one mic. Yeah, okay. My apologies. I don't know exactly what I can do about that, unfortunately. So we're going to hold our breath and hope that it doesn't continue throughout the entire show. Justin, welcome to the show, man. How's it going?
I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning, man. Welcome, and thank you for taking some time and sharing some of your insight and wisdom with us today. So first and foremost, let's just talk a little bit about kind of the beginning stages, the origin story, if you will, man. How did you actually get into trading in the first place?
Yeah, so I think for me, and like a lot of people these days, it was the meme stock craze that happened in the early 21, end of 2020, 21. Seeing all over Reddit, all over the news, GameStop, AMC. So decided maybe I need a little piece of that action, and downloaded the Robinhood app, got into GME, bought a few shares of that, and I think that's really caught the bug. Got a taste of my first little bit of profits, made a few $100 off that, and then I kept trading stocks on the Robinhood app, just here and there, different ones. Mainly, I kind of left the meme stock thing, moved on to regular stocks. I was trading a lot of, I think it was medical stocks at the time, but just making, $10 here, $5 there. And then doing some more research, and, people were talking about options. So I was like, what is this? What is this options deal? Did a little research into that and saw that the leverage was a lot higher, trading those options than it was trading stocks. So dipped my toes into that, and I got pretty serious into options trading, I think all through 22. So 21 was just trading Robinhood, trading GME, all the other stocks. 2022 jumped into options. It didn't work out as well. It was kind of boom or bust. It would make, $1,000 here and then lose 1,000. Make, it was up and down, up and down, up and down. Couldn't stay consistent with that. And I think a lot of it had to do with the theta, or the time decay of the options, having to deal with that extra element was no good for me. So that's when I started looking into what other options are out there that I could have some leverage, but not have to worry about the time decay. Right. And that's when I looked and I figured out futures. So it's Forex and futures. I dabbled in a little bit of both at first and decided futures were the way to go for me. And then that's when I stumbled upon Apex and some of these other prop firms where you can, instead of using your money, use their money to move forward. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of how I got into trading and how I moved into futures.
Yeah, and it's a pretty consistent story. Of course, I hear this over and over and over again because, of course, most traders, or what I see a lot of, is they either started with penny stocks or crypto just because it was, of course, so talked about.
Oh yeah.
Just you couldn't get away from the news. You may not have ever looked into any sort of financial information, and you couldn't get away from the fact that crypto was doing what it was.
Yep.
But it's hard to buy stock at $600 a share and expect to make 300 or 400% on it. It's just not going to happen, right? So we look for those opportunities where we can get those big moves. And well, the reason penny stocks are penny stocks is because they're not that strong, right?
Yeah.
So there's an opportunity there if you get in at the right time, if you have the right information. But you want to talk about some major studying that goes into that. And so options seems to be the next that next stop. But as you mentioned, the time decay, the theta, the Greeks in general, it's just a different set of information. So I love futures. I have not really dabbled in Forex. I've played a little bit with some of the Forex futures that are available to trade on Apex. But to me, I don't know. NASDAQ is really just the one that I know. NASDAQ. I feel like we're buddies at this point. I've learned enough about it and how it moves to kind of keep it going. So as you made this progression, now you weren't necessarily looking for a new career or a full-time income as a trader, right?
No. So my day job is I'm an engineer, and and it worked out for me because I'm at the computer a lot, and without that time decay, when I'm trading futures, I mainly would trade MNQ or MES, get the micros, get one or two on, map out where I think it's going to go, buy a couple of those, and then let them sit in the background while I'm doing other things, engineering work. I have alerts set on my phone where I could, I would get alerted if it reached a certain price, then I'd check it. So it worked out for me that way. Like you were saying with options, it was, if I put on a trade in the beginning of the day and I'm playing 0 DTE, I have that one day, and if it takes all day to get my price, it's already lost all of its value in time decay. So futures is a lot better option.
Yeah, I mean, one factor, price movement. That's it.
Yep.
Makes life so much easier for sure. Again, I played with some options back in the day. It was not definitely my strongest move in the world of trading, but it's just there's just so much more to consider and so much more to factor in. So I have to say this because I've done this show. We just hit the 100th episode last week. So this is episode 101 officially. I've talked to a lot of traders, and one thing that I have heard on an inordinately high percentage of the time is when we get these engineer type, scientist type mentality that come into the world of trading, we see a pretty high success rate relative to sort of any other sector.
Sure.
Being an engineer, moving into the world of trading, how much of a factor do you think that played into your progression? And is there any recommendation that you can make to somebody that might help them take that approach to trading?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I'm pretty data driven, even in day-to-day life. I'm constantly doing projects. I'm a manufacturing engineer by trade, so I'm upgrading machines, looking into processes, and I'm always trying to continually improve. And I kind of brought that over into trading. I wanted to make sure that my strategy was data driven. At first you think it just looks like it's going to go this way, or I have a feeling it's going to go down. I should probably short. And I've learned to kind of squash that over the years because most of the time my intuition was wrong. And so what I like to make sure that I'm doing is making sure that I have confluence between multiple points of data, whether it be an EMA or a VWAP or volume or price. I'm making sure that the decisions I'm making are data driven. And I think that, like you were saying, kind of lends itself to some of these people who are more, oriented into the science and technology and engineering field. Those people are, if they're using that in their day-to-day life, it's more likely that they'll apply that also to trading.
Of course. Well, and it's funny you use the word intuition, and I want to talk about that because I think that there are two ways to look at intuition. I think that when you're a brand new trader and you have what you see as an intuition is that sort of gut feeling, I feel like that sort of is a result of seeing one big candle or something dramatic that sort of gives you that gut check, and you're going to call it intuition, but it's really a fear-based reaction. Whereas if you've got a couple of years of experience and the data behind it and you know what you're looking for and you can bank on certain statistics playing themselves out over time, and I say bank on, of course, take that with a grain of salt, it's trading, right? But I believe that we get to a point where intuition has meaning behind it. Education, experience, knowledge, all of these things start to come into play to where we begin to where we can actually trust that intuition. Have you experienced a
Oh, yeah.
certain level of that, or is it
No,
really just the numbers?
no, 100%. So, back when I was options trading, I was hopping around from stock to stock, whether it be an
Mhm.
Nvidia or Apple, with options, you can run the gamut on whatever you want to buy on. So, but since I started focusing on futures, it's mainly ES and NQ. And a lot of times they run in a similar direction, but I mainly focus on NQ. And like you said, you do get, after you've applied data and you kind of know how it's going to move, but
Mhm.
just watching this stock over the past 2 or 3 years, it kind of has a life of its own. You can almost feel the heartbeat of the NQ, and you get a feel for how it's going to move. So you can develop that, but like you said, it has to be backed up over data over time with experience, not just
Mhm.
2 weeks in the market thinking it's going to go a certain direction. So
Right.
there is something to that kind of gut feeling intuition. If you can couple it with data, then you probably have a pretty good trade on your hands.
That's all. I love that. I love that. So listen, we compile all of this data into what ultimately becomes a strategy, right? And of course, as you and I both know, and probably everybody in the chat, if you're being honest with yourself, traders spend probably 80% of their time trying to figure out what strategy is going to work for them. One of the reasons we do this show the way that we do, where we highlight different strategies week to week, is to show that ultimately it's not so much about the strategy as it is about the traders. So we're going to talk about some strategy today. We do so every week, and again, not to get people to switch from one strategy to another, but to realize that if you just take whatever resonates with you, ultimately you want to build on that. And so that's where you're going to grow as a trader and growing your level of success. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. Let's talk about what's been working for you, what the data has ultimately led you to look for when you're looking for a trade. So let's walk us through basically what it is that you look for on a day-to-day basis.
Sure, sure. So first thing I look at when I get up in the morning is news. So I
Mhm.
like to use Forex Factory is the
Exactly.
name of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and I use this calendar. It's pretty simple for me to go through this. I look for the red folders or orange, see if there's any big news events around that day. And I mainly do that just because I don't want to be caught in a trade when something's coming out. You got CPI data, inflation numbers or unemployment numbers, anything like
Mhm.
that. Jerome Powell's talking. I want to be out of the market. I don't have like two NQs on and it go up or down against me 300 points. So
Right.
I always want to be aware of the news and either trade around that because I have an idea of what's going to happen, or most of the time it's hey, get out of a trade around 8:30 or 9:30. So I'm looking at
Sure.
news. The second thing I'm doing over here on the right, I have Trading View, and that's what I use to
Mhm.
do most of my charting. And I like to go all the way out to the daily. I'll go all the way up to the day and start drawing levels on these charts where price action has stopped or started. So what I'm trying to do is find support and resistance
Mhm.
and marking those levels. And that gives me an idea when I'm trying to set up a trade of where I want to be getting in or getting out. So you can see this morning it kind of came up and it went up through this. And these are kind of zones. I don't really, when I draw these lines, they're not hard and fast. I'm not expecting it to stop on the dime right here at 533, but plus or minus 10 points I'm looking for. So I have these zones set right here that I've just over time, I'll put those in. I'll go from the daily to the hourly to the 30-minute, 15-minute down time frames, drawing in these support and resistance levels. And
Mhm.
then over time, as they bounce around in them, I can get a good feel. I'll remove them if the price goes through them, straight through them, or straight back through it. Then I'll kind of invalidate it. But as you're building your charts up, you can get these lines in here, and they'll be pretty good to you. I expect this probably go up to 630 today or somewhere in this zone and reject a little. And I
Mhm.
just learned that over time as part of that data-driven approach that I use. So outside of the news events and the price levels, I'm also and my charts are a little convoluted, but um, I got the EMAs right here. So, and this is
Mhm.
just what it's doing to me for me is it's kind of validating this price action. It's going up, it's continuing up as upward trajectory as long as it
Right.
stays above. And this is a 20 EMA and the 8 EMA. So what I'm looking
Okay.
for price to do is come down and test these EMAs, and I wanted to
Mhm.
see it bounce off them and continue up, and that's showing me that this is an uptrend. So if I was
Right.
going to take a trade right now, I would be going long. And in the beginning, as a new trader, and I don't know if anyone else is like this, but for me, I always wanted to short these. I'd be like, it's going up all day. It's got to come down at some point. But but over the years, I've been burned that I try to stay with the trend. The old saying,
Mhm.
"Trend is your friend," and that EMA is some of the data points that I use to validate that feeling that I have of
Mhm.
direction.
Sure.
Um, So the EMAs, the VWAP, everybody should be using VWAP. I think that's if I could only use one indicator, it would probably be VWAP. Volume weighted.
That's your go-to. Okay.
Yeah. If I'm above VWAP, I'm going long. If I'm hanging out below VWAP, I'm probably going to be going short. And that's probably one of my number one indicators.
Now, if you're right at it, are you staying out just waiting for some sort of a directional indication?
Absolutely. Yeah. Unless like this morning, you could see on this 5-minute chart, price went up, and I like to go on the 2-minute. That's probably where I spend most of my time. So
Yeah.
right here, you can see price kind of chopped around, and then it broke through here. It got over VWAP right there. I would start to thinking I was going long. If you come up through VWAP, with a little volume, that's where I'm thinking, okay, we're above VWAP now. We're hanging above these EMAs. It's probably time to go long. And this lighter blue line right here. So what I like to do in the mornings, that's a weighted VWAP just for time. So if you're doing futures, you have this overnight action that's going to affect the total VWAP. But a lot of times, if you'll notice, if you use these anchored VWAPs, and I'll put it on right here at 9:30, that's just the volume weighted price action just from the beginning of the market. And I've noticed that, and it kind of lines up also on my other charts. I kind of look at SPY and QQQ, and that's basically what the VWAP is on those. So it's kind of like having that second VWAP of confluence. So yeah, I'm mainly using these EMAs, the VWAPs. I'm looking at previous price action to see any kind of support and resistance levels. And then if you see these yellow dots right here, all that is just that's just the initial balance being set. So at 10 o'clock, these yellow dots stop, and so the initial balance of NQ was just between 444 all the way up to 554, so about 100 points. And if price action is holding above that initial balance that it set in its first 30 minutes, there's a good probability. I think when I did the math, it was about a 71% chance that it's going to continue in that direction.
There's the engineer speak that I was looking for.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah. So go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I was going to say, so, and maybe you're getting here when you're looking at an entry. Now, are you looking? You said you are projecting it potentially hitting like that 630 area today. And again, take that with a grain of salt. This is just conversation that we're having about the markets. But when you're looking for an entry, are you looking to take it all the way, or are you looking to take it to maybe like the next resistance level or support level, depending on directionality? Are you looking for the smaller moves, the bigger moves? What does that actually look like for you?
Yeah, for me, what I like to do is scale in with micros. So if I'm in a full NQ or a mini, I'll usually look for scalps, 5 to 10 points, 100 to $200, just because you're working with such large, and you can get blown out easy just trading this mini. So you trade micros. A lot of times I'll get in 3 or 4 at first, and what I like to see is a pullback to this 20 EMA. And you can see right here, it kind of came down a couple of times. I would have got in right here where it bounced off this initial balance, and it came down to this 20 EMA. I would have went long here with about 3 or 4, and then look to scale out. So on that first profit take, let it come up. Look at previous levels, like right here, it's probably gonna have a little resistance. You can see these tops up here, the bottoms of the day before. I would probably put in a sell over there, maybe at the top here around 625. And also 600 is a big round number. The market likes those big round numbers. It's going to go there. A lot of times it's going to bounce off of it. I have some trend lines drawn. This is probably a multi-day trend line here. Yeah, you can see this trend from the high we made a couple weeks ago. I have a trend line drawn down. So I'll be looking for price to maybe come up to that trend line and definitely bounce off it, or at least consolidate there for a while before it cuts through. And I saw the same thing this morning as well. We had a trend line, just a daily one. I had this drawn, and as soon as it broke out of it this morning, it continued up. You can kind of see it a little better on a smaller time frame. It bouncing off, hanging around this trend line. So I'll use trend lines as well. If I get 3 points or more on a trend line, usually that validates that trend line, and I'll be looking for it to break or hold as resistance.
Well, and as we're looking at this, of course, just having this conversation in hindsight, we can sit here and look at that. We broke a trend line. We bounced off of the EMA. We bounced off of the your yellow dots, and forgive me, I don't remember what you called them.
What that is just the open. So that's where the price closed the day before.
Right. So there you go. So now you have multiple points of data that are telling you my expectation here is long. Are you going to weight your entry based on how many points of confluence, or is it really just I'm going to base it on how much I'm willing to risk on a trade?
Yeah, it depends on how many points of confluence. So, like if I'm above VWAP, like this is a if I were looking to trade here and I had got in right there, I would have
Mhm.
got in with 4, and I may have even at when it broke this high, scaled in
Mhm.
with a couple more. Get up to
Sure.
6 or 7. Um, but today, like I said, it's going to be a slow day. I think the market's waiting on Nvidia.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of news going on in the market right now, and so I like to see on these days. Normally, what you see when there's no news, it means good news. It's usually just
Right.
going to grind up on these
Just
slow grinds. I'm not really looking for big moves today. So on a day like this, I probably stay small size and just look for those small wins. You add up $100. If you get $100 win 3 times a day, that's $300. And that's
right.
not small change. I mean, you found $300 on the ground, you're pretty happy.
Yeah.
So
For
I
sure.
try
For
to
sure.
keep
And
that
and
consistent.
sometimes you're trading that across a few accounts. It
Yep.
starts to add up pretty quickly. So I love that, man. So at this point, and I don't always ask this. I ask this sometimes, but I'm going to ask because of the engineer conversation we just had. Are you pretty like if I asked you your stats right now, would you know right off the top of your head really where your stats generally tend to sit with your strategy?
Yeah, yeah. My strategy has about a 78% win rate in what I do. Um, and normally, what happens is I usually have a lot of small wins, and then I'll have a larger loss. So my
Mhm.
risk to reward ratio is about 1 to 2.5 is normally what
Okay.
So my if I have a loss, it's probably going to be $250, but if I have a win, it's going to be 100. And
Right.
I just found that over time that works. But I like to give my trades room to breathe. Like this morning
Mhm.
when I was in this trade here, I had my stop down at um, this 425 level. I'd
Mhm.
seen in the past that we had bounced off a few times there. There's also right here you can see. So I use this indicator. It's called Spaceman BTC. It's on TradingView. I like it because it automatically puts in these levels right here. You can see previous week mid. It's just the mid range for all the previous week's trading. The
Mhm.
Monday low here, Monday high there, and you can also see price action will come to those, and it's almost like and it changes daily. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a variable price range that I can kind of refer to. But this morning when I got in this trade pre-market, I was looking for it to come back up because it had dropped down a good bit overnight, and
Sure.
we'd had that big pop, and I knew there was still a lot of unfinished business up here in this consolidation. It would probably want to revisit that, and so I got in pretty light with some MNQs, and I put my stop down here at 425, and got out honestly just before this interview because I wasn't sure how well I could manage this trade while we're talking, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking for it to come up to these 600, so looks like it's working out pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I mean, when you have data, you have confidence, and I think this is what so many of us who maybe aren't used to being data driven have the opportunity to learn from someone like you is some people like different people have different philosophies on back testing, forward testing, but one thing that I think is pretty consistent across the board is the value of keeping your stats. If you know what your stats are,
Yeah.
you're less likely, at least as long as they're profitable. Otherwise, change strategy or work on it or develop it, right? But as
Yep.
long as those stats consistently tell you, hey, I'm profitable when I do this, it makes it easier to do this to override that emotional roller coaster that we experience when we see one big candle that goes against us and like, oh no, reverse, 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 right?
Yep.
So
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, Tradeovate has the ability. You can run reports out of it. So what I like to do is, if you pull in one of these
mhm,
reports, and you can pull out all the data from your
sure,
accounts. And what I like to do, what I've been doing is I've kind of made a little AI prompt that I throw in daily my stats, and it knows
mhm,
what I'm looking for, my
sure.
win, my hold times, all these things, and it kind of spits it out. I have a running data log that I use that just to make sure that I'm staying on track.
What's really interesting about stats is yes, it's important to keep them, but just raw stats in and of themselves have the potential, in my opinion, to be meaningless. And what I mean by this is I know as I've been coming up, one of the things that I struggle with is consistency of entry. So I'll take my couple of shots for the day or whatever, and when I go rogue, which I haven't done since last Monday, actually, so it's been a whole week, right? But
Yep.
when I go rogue, I'm no longer looking for the same entry. I'm no longer positioned and sized the same. So all of these factors begin to change. Now, I
hmm
might get lucky and get out of that hole. As bad as we know that process is, we know that sometimes it works, which is why we continue to repeat it, right?
Yep.
But when you take stats that are associated with that type of activity, those stats are now meaningless because
Fewer
they're
going
not
to social
measuring the
media.
same thing. They're not measuring the same factors, right? So,
Right.
so it does have to be, of course, like I said, in my opinion, stats have to be meaningful in a sense that they have to be based on a level of consistency. Did it take you long to get to the point of consistent entries, or was this something that you had to work on over time?
No, it took me probably a good year of trading futures
Yeah.
to get consistent entries to figure out exactly what worked for me.
Mhm.
And and I would say 80% of my trades are going long, just
Yeah.
because I think it's, and I spoke to other people, and I think the general thought for a new trader is to go short for some reason. And I've tried to short the market so many times and got bit by it. So 80% of mine, I'm always looking for that balance. I'm always looking for it to go long, and it's just over time that's treating me well. And the stats have proven that. That it backs it up. If I'm going long, I'm winning 80% of the time. If I'm going short, it's almost a 50-50 chance for me. I just can't see those shorts as good as some people do.
I think one thing that drives people to the shorts, and I know that I've been this guy from time to time, is it seems like when it goes down faster than
Oh
when
yeah.
it goes up, right?
Yep.
So yeah, there's an appeal to getting like, if I can get in at just the right time and catch that, that complete flush, right?
Hmm.
There's a gambler's mentality with that mindset, for sure. But I can absolutely understand psychologically where that's going to start to draw people in for sure.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah. Definitely is.
it's part of the journey. It's part of the process. But now at this point, you're still an engineer. You're still, doing, living your life the way that you have, but you've now added the component of being a consistently profitable and successful trader into your lifestyle. What has this done for you that maybe you didn't expect? Or, I mean, is it just more money in your pocket?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more money in my pocket. I've been, I think, for about the past year and a half, been consistently taking monthly payouts from prop
Mhm.
firms, in particular Apex. But it just frees you up to do things like, for me, I have three young boys that I like
Mhm.
to spend time with, and so we like to do things as a family, and it opens up the possibility to have fun with them doing bigger vacations. So we spent some
Right.
of that money on larger vacations. I went to Mexico, had a good time,
Mhm.
but also just setting myself up for the future. Maybe I can retire a little earlier. So I'm taking some of
Right.
this money, I'm taking it out, and putting it in other funds, trying to grow it there. And so it opens up a lot of possibilities for having fun with your family, setting up yourself for retirement, or I mean, people have bills to pay. It makes life a little easier when your bank account has a few extra $1,000s in there. You're not worried as much having to make that light bill or pay that car payment. So it's opened up a lot for me, give me a lot of freedom to do things that I like to do.
For sure. I mean, I know people who just the typical American lives in debt, right?
Sure.
Where a lot of times they'll take 500 to $1,000 in profit for the month, and that just pull out a couple bucks for taxes, right? But just apply that straight to debt. That can have life-changing implications in that
100%.
scenario. I know for me, when I started to get to that point, it wasn't trading, but when I started to see some different stuff coming in, that was an aggressive thing for me, and that just changed the way that I felt. Once my truck is my only debt at this point. That's a
Mm,
really, really good feeling.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so there's just obviously, look, we all trade for the money, but what's behind the desire for a little extra money? And I think that's what keeps us going through the tough times. And
Mm.
just it's tough. Trading is difficult, and there will
Oh
be
yeah.
times where you want to quit. But
Yeah.
if you've
And
got a
I've
good
had
enough,
to. Yeah, there's been months, where I just can't make a good trade. Now I've stepped away from the market for a couple months at a time,
yeah,
and it's always helped me, try to clear your mind, get back up, get back to the charts, and read. I've deleted all my drawings and just started from scratch. And
right.
sometimes you have to do that. So yeah, I mean, it's a painful process, but it's worth it in the end. And if you can stick to it, figure out your strategy, be consistent with it. Take those small wins. Don't think that 50 bucks here, 20 bucks there, it doesn't add up over time, because it does. And
That's what it is.
I've been bitten in the past just trying to get those $1,000 days. But
Right.
when you're starting out and you have those small accounts, you have to take those small bites to build that base.
Yeah. It's important to frame it right. And the reality is, again, if you're going for $1,000 day and you're brand spanking new, and you've done that maybe 3 times out of 1,000 trades,
Yeah.
that's not strategy. That's gambling, right?
Yep.
So build your resilience and your expectations based on where you are, and ultimately that will allow you to grow that slowly but surely. And I think that's absolutely critical. At this point, I mean, do you ever foresee a time where if trading hit a certain level, would you give up the day job, or is that not something that's of interest to you until
No,
quote
no, it's
unquote
it's
retirement?
it's definitely an interest of mine. But I think that I got to get the kids out of the house, right? I have to
Yeah.
have a steady paycheck for those teenage boys, you know.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so for now, I'm keeping the day job for sure. You know,
Yeah.
I have a steady income, but eventually, I think in the future, I could see myself just trading full time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the dream. I know, we've talked a little bit about, and I've talked about on the show, the fact that my lovely wife, Farrell Muse, by the way, if you saw her comment at the beginning of the show, that is my wife for the record. But we're getting an RV. In fact, we just committed to and ordered the hitch, and we're going to be on the road probably for about a year full time. This is not something I could do with a corporate desk job. I just couldn't, right? But I get to build out the back of the RV as a mobile office. I get to trade. I get to do the show. I get to do all of these things. This is something that it's not impossible to do in the modern world. We have so many people that have remote jobs, but I got to tell you, as a trader, that's definitely something that's become easier now that we've got Starlink and just access to information anywhere. Literally, I mean,
Yep.
you got people out in the middle of the ocean that are posting content. So it does change the dynamics of what's possible. And to me, that's one big part of the show is what is possible if things just go in the direction that you want them to go. Because I've been living this sort of what happens when things go the way I want them to go? What do I get to do?
Hmm.
And that drives me, that pushes me further, and that helps me take the steps that I know I need to take to settle down the emotions and to get a little
Yep.
bit more consistent and a little bit more precise with the way that I operate. So listen, Justin, man, what a pleasure getting a chance to chat with you and getting some insights. I did not disappoint. Obviously having some great insight, not just into strategy, but into what makes you emotionally resilient to just take the trades that you need to take and not worry about today, worry about the week, the month, the year. At the end of the day, if you've got the right numbers, it all works itself out. And
Absolutely.
being a man of the numbers, that's just a great way to build that confidence and that foundation. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. Again, just for everybody, make sure that you like and subscribe. Yeah, I always forget. Thank you for that. Make sure to like and subscribe. We will not be doing a show next week because it is Labor Day. So enjoy the holiday and, make sure that you're trading properly through the rest of the week, knowing that we've got holiday throughout that. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another guest. That's going to be a lot of fun. Don't forget to fill out the form if you haven't already done so. We will be giving away those 3 evaluations, and we'll be announcing those. Hopefully easier to pronounce names next week, but if yours isn't easy, don't worry. I still want to get that to you. So enjoy. Just, my apologies for butchering those names. Justin, thank you so much. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a good time.
Awesome. And I'll see the rest of you guys 2 weeks from now on the next episode of the Trader Bacon Show. Thanks for joining the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Make sure to join us next time, Mondays at 11 a.m. Eastern.